some of you who studied economics probably remember the main assumption, one of the main assumptions in economics, that all people act rationally. In fact, it's far from reality. Daniel Kahneman, a psychologist and a Nobel Prize winner, has identified that he has researched how we make decisions. So today I want to share with you some of the findings in his book that I found interesting. He identified that there are two modes of thinking. So fast and slow. Fast thinking is when we use our intuition. We use it to make associations, to understand metaphors, and to understand cause and effects. We use it in such standard situations when we act like a plane on autopilot. And then there is slow thinking. It's quite different from a fast one. It's based on logic. And we use it when we need to think rationally, to make calculations, to make some analysis. So now to demonstrate it, let's do some exercises. Okay, please. So please tell, what emotion does this man experience?
Anger.
Exactly. So it didn't take you long. You knew the answer right away. And now I have another question for you. Please click. Please multiply 24 by 17.
Epic fail.
So I'm just joking. No worries. You don't have to calculate it now. Just please note that it would probably take you quite some time to calculate this, and also quite some effort. So now you have experienced what is two different modes of thinking, slow and fast. Yeah? Oh, I can. Yeah, thank you very much. So most of the time, as I have said before, we use fast. Can you go back, please? We use fast thinking. We function like a plane on autopilot. And we use slow thinking when we face non-standard situations, when we realize that we actually need to stop and take some time to think. The problem is that we don't always recognize that this situation is not standard, and we need to take some more careful consideration. So we often make a wrong decision because we didn't take enough time and effort. So today I would like to try to answer this question with help of Daniel Kahneman. Why can't we act rationally all the time?
It's out.
No, it doesn't.
No, just try one.
Okay. So the first reason for that is that our brain is actually lazy, as we are. So I suggest you another mini test for you now. Can you please say, is the last statement true? If we think that all roses are flowers, and some flowers fade quickly, so therefore some roses fade quickly, is that true or false?
It's true.
No.
No.
So maybe now you are prepared for some tricky questions, but usually people answer yes, that this is true, which is actually not right. And this happens because in usual situation we don't expect. Well, in usual situation everything is going fine. We don't expect any trouble, any problem, and so we don't think critical enough, and we end up relying on our intuition. That's because our brain prefers going the easy way, because it's lazy. So the second reason is that being rational requires self-control, and psychologists have actually stated that there is a connection between self-control and efficiency. You probably have heard about the very famous marshmallow test. Have you?
Yeah.
I think it's quite cruel also. In this test, children who were 4 years old They were seated in an empty room and given a marshmallow. And they were told that if they managed not to eat it in 15 minutes and wait for 15 minutes, they would get a second marshmallow. So not all of the children passed this test. After maybe about 20 years later, psychologists checked on them how they were doing, and they found out that those who managed to fight this temptation to eat the marshmallow, they were more successful in life because they had enough will, they had a strong will to pursue their goals. So now think of yourself. It's actually quite hard to start a challenging task which requires concentration, analysis, research. So it does apply to us too. We need a strong will. And the third reason is that our brain needs a coherent story. So basically, when we face some situation and we understand that there is not enough information, we just make an assumption according to the context. Now please look at this picture and tell what is in the picture.
Letters and numbers.
You know it probably.
No?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
We're thinking critical.
What? Okay, then
13.
please be quiet now for now. What is this? Can you read it?
A13 S C.
Oh, ABC, it depends.
You are very, very talented group. Can't be tricked. So, and this is?
12, 13, 14.
So, some of you have noticed that in these two pictures, the middle symbol was actually the same. So, this little test demonstrates that our brain really makes assumptions according to context. So, I used to think of myself as a really smart and rational person, but when I was reading this book, I found some of the findings and conclusions surprising, some of them even a bit offending, but I do admit that this is very useful to understand how your brain functions, to be able to take that into account when you make important decisions. Just to sum up, let's repeat again, why can't we be rational all the time? That's because, first of all, our brain is lazy. Secondly, being rational requires self-control, and we can't control ourselves constantly. And finally, our brain needs a coherent story, so it makes up assumptions, and it's not always easy to differentiate what is an assumption made by our brain automatically and what is the real information. So sometimes we see the situation distorted. we don't see the situation is distorted because our brain has made up an assumption. So please consider this when you can you please leave last time for me. So consider this when you have to make an important decision again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Liliya. I think everything you said is true. And our second speaker, who do you think? Our VP Education, Isaac Budler.